It is a hot summer afternoon in the year 1018. Count Dirk of West Frisia looks over the wooden palisade of his recently erected stronghold in the Rhine Delta. In better days, he would have seen a number of merchant ships laden with trading goods bound for England and the ports of the North Sea. Yet this day was different. Dozens of boats flying imperial banners were about to land on the coast just south of his castle. Dirk's officers were already scrambling, preparing for the inevitable encounter. The battle was about to begin. This video is sponsored by CuriosityStream. Once again, we are proud to have CuriosityStream as a sponsor, one of the foremost online resources for documentaries and educational content. Videos on science, technology, nature, and so many other topics are just a click away. A strong recommendation from us would be the documentary World War I Hidden Traces, a harrowing and up-close look at what it was like to be in the trenches during the Great War. And there's never been a better time to sign on, as CuriosityStream is running a great promotion. For less than $2 a month on their annual plan, you'll get full access to their film library. But if you use the link in the description below and use the promotional code BAZBATTLES, you'll also get a 30-day trial absolutely free. Available on all major platforms, CuriosityStream has some of the top award-winning documentaries in the world. Follow the link in the description below and stay curious. It is the beginning of the year 1018. The Holy Roman Empire is under the reign of the Ottonian dynasty, which had been the leading political force in Central Europe for the last 100 years. The fifth consecutive ruler of the family, Henry II, put much of his efforts into consolidating a peaceful royal regime within Germany. Following the footsteps of his predecessors, Henry's main method of extending his authority over the majority of the empire's semi-independent duchies and marches was in granting rights and landholdings to loyal churchmen. These individuals in return acted as a form of emperor's representative and counterbalanced the ambitious nobility across the empire. In the time of Henry's tenure on the imperial throne, one such rivalry between secular and ecclesiastical authorities took place in the northwestern part of the empire. The Low Countries, up until the 11th century, were a sparsely populated region consisting of little more than peat swamps, were on the verge of rapid economic expansion. Draining the marshy areas created patches of arable land that gradually attracted farmers eager to settle and cultivate the reclaimed areas. In the span of a few generations, the Low Countries were slowly becoming one of the leading economic hubs at the border of the empire. Naturally, these lands also became a point of contention between local lords and bishops. One such lord who capitalized on the emerging trade market was the emperor's vassal Dirk, Count of West Frisia, the germ of which would eventually become the County of Holland. Dirk was a smart administrator, well aware of the fact that his fiefdom was located in a strategic location that bisected some of the key trading routes of the Rhine Delta. He vastly expanded the settlement of Vlaardingen, encouraging immigration and erecting a wooden stronghold intended to overlook merchant ships passing through the area. Conventional medieval business, one might say, but things were not that straightforward, as Count Dirk was in a never-ending conflict with Bishop Adalbert of Utrecht, one of the emperor's confidants in the region. Dirk's fortifications in Vlaardingen were built with no imperial permission and were staunchly contested by Bishop Adalbert and other nobles loyal to the emperor. The strife soon escalated as Count Dirk expanded his sphere of influence, occupying lands claimed by neighboring bishops. But the ambitions of the West Frisian Count went even further. He started to levy a toll from the merchant vessels moving goods from the busy trading port of Tiel, bound for England, that happened to sail through the estuary near Vlaardingen. Dirk's impertinence now directly harmed the imperial treasury, stripping it of some lucrative tax revenue. The matter of the disobedient count was raised by Bishop Adalbert and the merchants of Tiel on Easter of 1018, when Emperor Henry summoned an imperial diet at Nijmegen. Upon hearing the complaints, the emperor authorized Bishop Adalbert and the Duke of Lower-Lorraine to organize an armed expedition to compel Dirk to amend his ways. The Frisian Count, who was also present, stormed out of Nijmegen, promising to thwart any plans aiming to curb his expansion in the Rhine Delta. Within the next 3 months, an imperial host was being assembled in Tiel under the command of Duke Godfrey of Lower-Lorraine, the most powerful noble in this part of the empire. Bishops of Utrecht, Liège, Cambrai, and Cologne contributed their troops, and in July of 1018, a host of more than 3,000 men embarked boats and sailed west to punish the West Frisian Count. They reached lands occupied by Dirk on the 29th of July and disembarked in the vicinity of Vlaardingen. The surrounding area of the castle presented little opportunity for elaborate maneuvers. Boggy terrain with plenty of small streams was reinforced by several ditches dug out by Dirk's men to further enhance the defensive nature of the land. To reach the flat clearing to the north, which offered good access to the castle, the imperial host, led by Godfrey, had to spread out and force their way through a number of obstacles to reach the Count's stronghold. This plan had some flaws, but given the treacherous terrain of the river delta, there was no other viable option to challenge the enemy. As the vanguard was about to cross the last ditch and reach the clearing, a rumor spread amongst the imperial soldiers that Duke Godfrey, who led the van, was killed. Knowing the possible danger that such a rumor could cause, Godfrey rode back to buoy up his soldiers and avoid a breakout of panic. But he was either too late or simply not convincing enough, and the unrest spread quickly. The worst, however, was yet to come. Seeing some of the upheaval among the enemy's ranks, approximately 1,000 Frisian warriors hiding in ditches and vegetation saw an opportunity and rushed out to attack the disorientated imperial host. Count Dirk managed to recruit many of the Frisian settlers whom he granted land to in the area to support his cause and devise a cunning plan to trap those who would dare enter his domain. The melee was brutal and unsurprisingly one-sided. The West Frisians were of inferior numbers and fought with light, inadequate equipment, but the panic among the enemy's ranks and waning cohesion prevented Godfrey's men from fighting on equal terms. Many of the imperial host struggled to escape the ambush and reach the beach, only to realize that the tide had moved their ships to the middle of the river. None of the sources state the exact casualties of the clash near Vlaardingen, but it's safe to assume that a good portion of Godfrey's army perished while the rest were captured. The Duke himself was saved from certain death by Count Dirk, who rode out of his castle in the final phase of the battle and took him back to the stronghold, only to release him. An act performed, no doubt in the hope of avoiding further escalation of the conflict. As it turned out, Dirk's bold actions and political acumen soon yielded the fruits he had hoped for. He managed to appease the emperor by making peace with both Bishop Adalbert of Utrecht and Duke Godfrey, while at the same time maintaining most of the lands he had acquired over the last several years, and was even granted permission to continue levying taxes from the trade that passed through his domain. Although it would only be in the following century that the County of Holland would be first mentioned in the chronicles, years before this, Dirk, Count of West Frisia, carved out a strong position. The ambitions of this count built the foundations of the future county, which would eventually become one of the strongest economies and trade hubs of the Holy Roman Empire.